Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today is a new beginning. The beginning of Metroid Prime 5 speculation. Metroid Prime 4 is out, I've beaten the game, many others have beaten the game, I've shared my thoughts on the game, and now we are looking towards the future for Metroid Prime 5. We have a rumor, or perhaps I should call it a leak, that has seemingly been confirmed that is suggesting some exciting things about Metroid Prime 5, and it would actually explain a lot about Metroid Prime 4. So, that's what we're getting into today. As many of you may know, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is now out, and I'm trying to play this game in the best ways possible, and one of those ways is playing it at my desk on my ultra-widescreen, high refresh rate monitor, especially if I'm looking to record some high-quality gameplay or give mouse mode a go. But I have had an issue with my setup. The ability to adjust my monitor and to have appropriate space, which is why I am so thankful that Huanyuo, the sponsor for today's video, has reached out. They provided to me their Titan Lift heavy-duty monitor arm for ultra-wide screens up to 49 inches and it can hold up to 40 pounds. This monitor arm is awesome. It's super adjustable. You can fix your monitor into varying angles, you can rotate it around, you can push it backwards, forwards. There's a lot more flexibility here, and no more is there a stand right there in the middle of my desk. Everything is all in the back, so there's way more space on my desk, and it's heavy duty, super sturdy, and it was actually really easy to put on too. There's just a handful of parts. One part I was actually worried about is where I fasten it to the desk itself, because I have had issues fastening other cranes and arms to my desk before, like my microphone. I usually have to use a little bit of extra support. But the stand here fastens very quickly, very snugly, and extremely secure. And you just plop in a few more pieces, you screw it into your monitor on the back, and there you go. It's super intuitive, very easy to put together, only took me just a few short minutes, and I really get a sense of great quality here. So if you're looking for a quality monitor arm these holidays, I strongly recommend the Titan Lift from Huanyuo. The link will be in the description below. Now, quick disclaimer here, this video will have spoilers for the ending of Metroid Prime 4, but I will not be getting into it until the end of the video, and once I get to that point, I will provide a warning, so if you want to see what's going on with this whole Metroid Prime 5 business without being spoiled on Metroid Prime 4, you can watch this video safely, but then I will provide a warning before I actually get into the spoilers, so you'll have an opportunity to click off. But anyways, this is what's going on. So, Nash Riedel, who I think has proven to be a fairly reliable leaker all throughout this year, providing a lot of leaks on Switch 2 that have continually been proven true, has said things about Metroid Prime 5. Now, if you are concerned about the reliability of Nash Riedel, one, remember, always take these things with a grain of salt, but two, he's made his own video to speak on his receipts and reliability. That will be linked in the description below. But there are several layers to this rumor on Metroid Prime 5 that Nash Riedel's talked about at different points. So initially, Nash Riedel had said that Retro Studios had been working on Metroid Prime 4 and 5 in parallel, in tandem. And there were many people who disputed this claim and didn't think it was realistic that they would already be working on Metroid Prime 5 before Metroid Prime 4 would have been out. These rumors came out before Metroid Prime 4 came out, but they were from earlier this year. But more recently, just a couple weeks ago, before Metroid Prime 4 came out though, so the very beginning of December, just a few days beforehand, Nash Riedel shared more information on this Metroid Prime 5 project. And by this point, this rumor by Nash Riedel was seemingly being corroborated by Nintendo themselves, because within Nintendo's own marketing for Metroid Prime 4, they said Metroid Prime 4 was the beginning of a new story, suggesting that this game has been made with the intent to make more Metroid Prime games to follow soon after, supporting the idea that Retro Studios has been working on Metroid Prime 4, and at least in part also working on Metroid Prime 5. Now, to what extent are they working on Metroid Prime 5? I feel like it's safe to assume that they wouldn't be in the same stage of development for Metroid Prime 5 as they would for Metroid Prime 4. Perhaps as they've been polishing things up and ironing out certain details throughout this last year, they've been in the early stages of development for Metroid Prime 5, so different members working on different elements of these games. That, to me, makes sense. But now that we've played and seen everything Metroid Prime 4 has to offer, without spoiling anything, it has become very clear that this game was made with Metroid Prime 5 in mind, further supporting the idea that these games were developed, at least to some extent, at the same time. So this rumor slash potential leak has been heavily supported. And so what else has Nash Weedle said about Metroid Prime 5 beyond it just being in the works alongside Metroid Prime 4? Well, one big thing is that Metroid Prime 5 is happening regardless of the success of Metroid Prime 4. It's already a greenlit project. Apparently, Retro Studios had such huge ideas for the Metroid Prime series that Nintendo saw these ideas and told them that it had to at least be 2 games. So they greenlit their ideas for 2 different games here. And that information right there may actually help to explain some of the questions some people have about Metroid Prime 4, because going into Metroid Prime 4, we had such high anticipation, and there were certainly some things we understood about what may be going on with Metroid Prime 4, but when we play throughout the entire game, there are some things that are missing. Without spoiling it, I'll get more so into that later on to the video, but this does seem to explain a lot. Some of these elements that we've been looking for, it looks like they're going to be in perhaps Metroid Prime 5. But yes, according to his info, Metroid Prime 5 is happening regardless, which is very good news if you're concerned for the success of Metroid Prime 4. Listen, I've already shared my thoughts on Metroid Prime 4. I actually think it's a very good game. I actually think it's gotten way too much flack by critics. I think it's ultimately going to be considered a fairly underrated game. And as time goes on, I think people are going to look upon it more fondly. I think it might be a little bit of like a Wind Waker situation, for example. But the fact remains that reviews are divisive. Not every Metroid fan feels the same way about the game, at least at this point in time. And we have seen some positive signs for strong sales for Metroid Prime 4, but we also have seen some signs that are maybe not so positive. So it's still up for debate just how successful Metroid Prime 4 is going to be. But it looks like regardless of what happens with Metroid Prime 4, Metroid Prime 5 is happening anyways, which means it's another opportunity for the Metroid Prime series to establish a strong new audience, which could then bring more consistency to this series moving forward. So this bodes really well. We have more opportunity for the Metroid Prime series to succeed. And yet, there's another part to this rumor. But before getting to that part, if you've gone this far into the video, let me point out I have this goal to reach 60,000 subscribers. So if you find yourself enjoying this video or some of my other videos, I would very much appreciate your support, subscribing if you haven't done so already. But back to what I was saying about this rumor. Initially, when Nash Weedle reported on this apparent leak, he was saying he had heard that there will be a target date for a 2027 release. And I remember when we first talked about this idea of a Metroid Prime 5 from Nash Weedle, and while I do think Nash Weedle is fairly reliable, this part to the rumor I always felt like was too soon. And actually, more recently, Nash Weedle has spoken on this rumor with more detail, as we've been highlighting here, and he has talked about, well, that Metroid Prime 4 has seen delays, and so he may have heard that initially, but he is expressing skepticism that 2027 is when it would actually come out. Maybe 2028 is when we're going to see Metroid Prime 5 come out, which I would say isn't that far off if that is indeed when it comes out, but it's far off enough where I can kind of actually see it happening. They've already established this foundation with technology and story and all these other elements with Metroid Prime 4, and they've already been kind of working on Metroid Prime 5 as they've been wrapping up Metroid Prime 4, then maybe 2028 really isn't a stretch. And so if this is the case, not only do we get Metroid Prime 4 to have an opportunity to establish a strong new audience for the Metroid Prime series, but we're also going to get Metroid Prime 5 not too far off from now. And so the series is going to stay relevant, and when we also consider from the art book that the Prime series producer Kensuke Tanabe talked about wanting there to be a remake for Metroid Prime 2, there's a strong chance that comes out between Metroid Prime 4 and Metroid Prime 5, and that will also help to not only maintain momentum, but build momentum for the Metroid Prime series. And then when we also consider that Mercury Steam, who has developed Metroid Samus Returns and Metroid Dread, Dread being the most recent 2D Metroid entry that came out back in 2021, the most successful Metroid game to date. It's already been over 4 years. That next 2D game likely isn't that far off. I would be shocked if Mercury Steam hasn't working on this project, and so there's a good chance that comes out, if not next year, the year afterwards, So that's another game, another good Metroid game that could help maintain momentum for the overall Metroid IP. And going back to Nash Weedle rumors, we have heard from Nash Weedle on different occasions that there are other Metroid Prime projects on the way. So the plan may simply be that Nintendo is investing into multiple Metroid projects here with the intent to maintain and build upon Metroid momentum so the series continues to build on sales potential, so when they do pour in a lot of resources into a Metroid Prime game, it does sell enough to warrant all that effort. In other words, we will continue to see big, awesome games for the Metroid series for years to come, hopefully like Mario and Zelda moving forward. So this seemingly confirmed leak is very promising. And I'll also say, while again, yeah, I understand that there are different opinions on how good Metroid Prime 4 is, with a direct follow-up solely on Switch 2, not having to deal with the development restart or the pandemic or anything like that, and now with a second opportunity with this modern Metroid Prime formula, I think most people will agree that Metroid Prime 5 has an even better opportunity to be a really good game. And so hopefully when Metroid Prime 5 does come out, it won't be so divisive and the overall Metroid fan base will be very pleased. But now we're going to talk about some of the spoiler stuff here. So if you want to click off, this is your opportunity. I'll count down to 0 from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, we're now in spoiler territory now, so here we are. If you played through and beat Metroid Prime 4, then you're probably also left thinking that, what happened in Metroid Prime 4 definitely leaves me thinking that there's going to be more. One, the way things sort of end, I don't want to quite call it a cliffhanger, but in a sense it is, because we do not know what's happening next for Sylux, but he does have the ability to teleport, and so I definitely don't think we've seen the last of Sylux, and I don't think they've explained that much about his backstory yet. It still really feels like there's a lot of mystery there, and I do dive into this in my ending explained video for Metroid Prime 4 from a couple days ago if you want to dive further into all that stuff. But then there's something else that's talked about in Metroid Prime 4 that strongly suggests there's going to be another game, and that's the other 12 Lemorn that left Viros to find the Chosen One, and Chatoyant Valoon makes the point to say that he does not know what happened to them, which is adding some intrigue and mystery to what happened to these other 12 Lemorn, more opportunity for there to be other Metroid Prime games where we explore different things with the Lemorn. Which actually brings me to another point. We never saw, like, obvious time travel in Metroid Prime 4, but there were so many signs that there would be time travel in Metroid Prime 4. I mean, Chrono Tower, that means Time Tower. And we've already seen from some marketing material that the teleportation is about traveling across both space and time. And from one of the Lemorn priests, Shay, we can see from the log entries, she created the teleporter and she had an understanding of traversal through space and time. And when we do see Samus navigating through the options with the teleporter, it does almost look like there is some navigation through timelines here, or different points in time. So time travel does seem to be relevant to the story, but when we go back to the 2015 Eurogamer interview with Kensuke Tanabe, the Prime series producer, he talked about wanting to make a game from a gameplay perspective that would tie into both Sylux and time travel. From a gameplay perspective, time travel wasn't really relevant at all, unless you want to count the control beam where things happen in slow motion or how you can speed up its attack. But I'm not sure I would count that, because the time travel was talked about in the context of following up the mechanics from Metroid Prime 2, where there is a light and dark world, except the implication being you would be exploring more than one different time, and so that would be impactful to the overall level design and the gameplay. That we didn't see in Metroid Prime 4. But then something else we didn't see in Metroid Prime 4, not really, are Metroids. Like, yeah, we saw them in the beginning. Yes, they take over different boss enemies, and when you scan all the big bosses, they do mention how Metroid took them over. But we only literally see Metroids in their normal forms in the beginning, and they just take over some boss enemies. We don't ever actually fight a normal Metroid, and there's nothing really too special with the Metroids from a story perspective happening by this point. So it really feels like there's a lot the Metroid Prime 4 didn't get into that we thought they would. Metroids, more on what happened with Sylix, the whereabouts of all the Lemorn. We only know about one of the 13 Lemorn priests, so they could literally make more games based off all these other Lemorn, and it still seems like there's an intent to do something with time travel. And so when we think about the rumor and how Retro Studios actually had a huge pitch with a lot of crazy ideas and how Nintendo wanted them to make it into at least 2 other games, perhaps the time travel element and perhaps the Metroids and more so the story with Sylix and all that and the Lemorn, that's going to be integrated into Metroid Prime 5. And as we've talked about, now with Metroid Prime 4 under their belt with this modern team, them being able to focus on just a Switch 2 release so they can probably do a lot more. And with this foundation now set, Metroid Prime 5 has an opportunity, a greater, more likely opportunity, to be an even bigger success. So the hype train does not end for Metroid Prime here, folks. It's just getting started. So I'm amped, I'm excited, I actually do adore Metroid Prime 4, but I do recognize that there is certainly room for improvement in various ways, and we may see some of those improvements in Metroid Prime 5, along with some really cool ideas. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to check out the Huanyuo Time Lift Monitor Arm with the link in the description below. You can use my exclusive 25% discount code as you see on screen here, or it will also be in the description below. But that's all for now, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and watching. This is AndresRestart, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.